G'day, citizens. Welcome to Inforunners. I'm Execute. We're joined today by Algared. How you doing, mate?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So we were thinking we'd kick this off. This kind of came from a question we had on the live stream. Someone basically directly asked us, what is your favorite ship and why? And I kind of went, well, that's something we've never really kind of talked about. We talk about ships for value, but we don't really kind of sit down and talk about these ships that kind of do break the rules, so to speak, that we like ourselves. And so I thought it would be kind of really cool for us to just like do 5, and it was hard because you had ones you had to cut off and I had ones I had to cut off. And I'm gonna be honest, like even I look at my list now, I kind of go, yeah, I could jug this around, I could move this around again.
I could change my whole list if we changed it to ships that are flyable now, versus everything else.
So yeah, that
totally
changes
totally different if we mix it up.
Yeah, it changed it. So this is going to be just us talking about our opinions. It's got nothing to do with value. In fact, you will look at this and go, "What the hell are you guys thinking?" Some of the ships in mine, I reckon I could sit there and I could justify other ships over these. It's just like I quickly sat down and went bang, 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 bang. It was just like the first ones that came into my head. And Algared did it pretty much the same. But we're going to talk about why we like them. So we're going to start at number 5 and go through. Actually, what we'll do, Algared, how about we start with the bonuses? So I do have to change something over here. So your first bonus one, Algared. So we'll flip over to that, and you can tell everyone if I can click the right button, then it might work. Right, there you go, Algared. The Carrick. Tell us about the Carrick. Why is this? So this is bonus, everyone. So this is number, number 6, I guess, for you, Algared, yeah?
Yeah, I was torn at number 5. I had 3 ships I had to choose.
I made him. I played bad. I'm like, you got to cut, Algared. You got to cut.
And the whole reason was exploration.
Yep.
I like the idea of exploration. Pew pew doesn't appeal to me. The things that did get to me, Carrick was one of the ships that early on, when it was first was shown. When I first saw it, I went, this is not a pew-pew game. And it appealed. It really spoke to me in that sense. It gave the idea of being the USS Enterprise and going out and doing exploration.
Yeah. The
thing that I didn't like about it was such a small crew, which meant if you had, there were no NPCs to be red shirts. And so for me, that was the problem. But this ship has everything. And that was one of the things that made it such a difficult thing for CIG. It's got repair. It's got the the ability to fix things up. It's got the drones. It's got the jump point sensors. It's got a med bay. It's got cargo. It's got a hangar. It's got a garage. It's got everything, and it's got modular cargo pods.
But
what was not liked about?
I can talk a few things about it I don't like about it, right? So I do own one, right? So I do like exploration as well, but there was only really one kind of exploration ship on my list, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. But clear for me as time went on, so many people have this ship. It is kind of it's probably the most popular large ship in the game, and its inherent weakness for me is clearly the lack of guns. There is not a lot of guns on this for a ship of its size. If you put it next to, and if I picked one like that had excessive guns, it'd be like the Hammerhead, right? But that is clearly its weakness. It's not meant to be around other ships. Inherently, why it's got all those things out, like repair and medical and all that type of thing. But if you're an explorer, it is definitely probably very, if not close to, the best explorer in the entire game, especially for that Star Trek feel. I think this is the closest Star Trek ship we've got.
This is almost, I wouldn't say Star Trek, it's more like Voyager.
yeah. That does it as well.
Or the first Enterprise, the little Enterprise X or next over.
I am looking forward to when it's got some extra features coming online, like the antenna, the closing canopy and stuff like that. So, again, all these ships, these little exciting things we've got to look forward to on all the ships as they come along. I reckon this will see a real heyday when scanning comes in. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this ship when it comes in, and I think it will be a fun ship to play in the final game. Absolutely. So, yeah. All right, my bonus. I don't know. Tell me if you saw this one coming out, Grid. Bang.
I was expecting that. I would have expected that to be further in your list.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is cut. This got cut. Cut. It was
I
cut.
know that you love a cat. You've always liked that off center style, and this is probably the only ship in game that really has that not in not symmetrical design.
Asymmetrical.
Asymmetrical. That's the word. I'm struggling now. I was trying to find it. But yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I've kept it around because of the modularity, and it's very clearly Galaxy-like. Unlike the Galaxy, there's only really one module on the Galaxy that kind of interests me, and that's the manufacturing one. And again, if say I picked up a Pioneer, that would just drop the Galaxy completely for me, and I'd kind of earn down from the Pioneer to the Galaxy. There's something that's always spoke to me about this ship from its very early days. Like I think it was the very first ship after Kickstarter. It really spoke to me. There's something cool about the asymmetry. It's not that it's a Drake ship. And Algared will tell you that, like, how many ships have I owned and they've got rid of the asymmetry and I've just killed it. Like, I had the Herald, I had, like, I just, something about them that I really like. And I've even got Algared to fly, like, I forced him to fly this one day, and
yeah, I used to say I can't fly, it's too long, it's too weird. And he made me fly it.
Yeah,
he said, no, take it out and fly it. And once you get used to it, it's a bit like a Thulian. Once you get used to flying the Thulian, it's fine. Once you get used to flying a Carrick, not a Carrick, a Caterpillar.
Caterpillar, yeah.
It's fine. You get used to that off-centeredness and you're great.
It's at the moment, there's not a lot of things for us to do in game right now, and one of the things is trying all the different ships, right? And this has a very unique flying experience, like the Thulian, like Algared said. So yeah, not the same, but like the same quirky weirdness. There is just no other ship. There's very few ships you sit right at the back, right, for one, and one that's this long is another really weird thing, and then completely off to one side. Even if it was just sitting
the other thing that makes this unique. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, the only one I could think of that would kind of be like that would be something like the Idris, where you sit right at the back. And that's slightly off to the side too, now I think about it. It's on the right side, I believe, not the left. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. The other thing that's unique about this is this was also the very first ship that had a detachable cab. And so most other ships that were coming out that were large had snub ships. This doesn't have a snub. It's got a detachable cab with tractor beam and living quarters.
Yeah.
That little command module is almost a ship, a massive ship in its own right.
It is kind of crazy because the ship, even if you drop all the modules off, right, the ship in its default configuration supports 8 people, which is kind of crazy. This ship could eventually hit the chopping block, though, for me, if the modules just don't turn out and be interesting. I don't know. I've just kind of been waiting for those modules for so long.
I find it unique that even if you just take the cab's got accommodation for 4, plus tractor beams, plus weapons. It is a really good little ship.
Yeah.
In its own right.
Yeah.
So yeah. I can see why that's there.
It's going to make or break it, so to speak, for me with the modules, because let's be honest, it isn't kind of earning game-ish territory. It's what, $330 at the moment. It is a smaller large. I think it's what do you call that? A size 4, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to double check. It's actually only 16 meters shorter than the Carrick, which is kind of weird. Like, to think that, like, the Carrick is considered to be this $600 ship, and this thing's half the price, and it's only slightly smaller.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we'll wait and see. All right. So Algared, you're kind of number 5.
Yeah. So I went with the 890 jump. I was tossing and turning. 890 jump. Because I do like flying it now. It's a nice ship to fly slowly and just look at the scenery. But it was in that jump. It was in that mass of exploration ships. And I know people think, what? It's a touring ship. It's not really exploration. But it does have a really good scanning system on it, apparently. But the thing that really appeals to me is the same things that the Carrick's got in terms of hangar and cargo bay and all the rest of it. It doesn't have the drones, doesn't really have repair modules, but it does have one of the things that's unique for Origin, which was needing less crew than ships of its size. And so if you're going exploration, you could actually run everything and not necessarily have as many crew as you might necessarily need.
Yeah.
Again,
So it's heavily defended. It's got a second battle bridge, which is the only ship
yep,
that we're aware of
it's
that's
the
got
only
that
ship
right
with the
now.
second battle bridge.
To its credit, I will say it is a very striking and awesomely looking ship. Without me going into the gameplay of why I find some of it negative, I think the only real negative I can say without going into that is the layout needs a serious amount of work. And you and I have talked about this at length. The atrium is a particular disgruntled.
The stairwell is a problem
Yeah,
in terms of.
yeah. I just think they kind of, it feels like they built it from the bottom floor up and then got to the top and went, oh shit, we don't have enough room. It feels like it's one of those ships left over from when they built the exterior and then tried to get the rooms to fit inside, rather than just build all the rooms and then put the outside around it as a shell. I feel it needs to grow a bit, believe it or not, because of that. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of got that same type of feeling when we had the swimming pool put in instead of the cave room, a little room. You had that little room originally with the cave and the waterfall, and it was nice to look at. And they put the swimming pool in, and it was and both of those rooms that originally felt like, oh, what else can we put in this thing? We've got this space. Oh, it felt like that.
How would you feel if they combined the cargo bay and the hangar? Because originally they were side by side, and the hangar was actually a bottom up type of thing. Like, I actually think if I rework this myself personally, I would almost have it so the hangars come out to the side. So they're kind of like you fly in and fly out either side, and the hangar is a part of that, where you can have the cargo off to one side. You can kind of give up one of the tiny hangars, because they're tiny pads, aren't they? So you can give up a tiny one to have more cargo, or you know what I mean. So you mix and match essentially, and still have your two and have them to the bottom, and that would allow you to bring the restaurant. I know the restaurant's at the front, but like, again, you could have it also up to the front, the top. You could have some better again, being at the top, you could then have some better VIP suites and things like that. I do think the 600i series and the 400i series is showing that CIG have shown what touring can be. I just think this was the one ship kind of a bit behind, and I think it needs the same kind of treatment as unfortunately, as the 600i. And I think they're looking at this going, oh, we don't really want to do a real big one because it takes time, but I think they have to if they want it to justify the price point.
When you look at the ship, and if you're looking at those luxury suites, it does have 5. It's got four smaller ones and then the bigger.
But they're really weirdly kind of got all this weird architecture, and they're a bit pokey. And you go down and there are some multiple endless, and I shouldn't say multiple endless, but they are some serious corridors down there that could be rejigged for better utilization of space. In fact, there's multiple corridors that go down the side of the ships and things like that, where it might be better if you just have one in the center, because then it takes up less space, so you can have more rooms. And I think I just think a lot of that's got to do with how the ship is laid out. And I think whoever laid it out, I don't know, maybe they were told to move the hangars from the bottom to the top. Again, maybe in time we'll find out why they made the decisions they did. But yeah, obviously putting it at the sides would change the look of it a little bit. But there are other ships where they come out the bottom as well. So
yeah, well, if I remember correctly, the original design did have the hanger down the bottom with either a drop down entry point or and I could imagine they changed it because that drop down and either they were having issues with the way the Constellation's hanger was originally working, or they were just down docking and flying up into that and then closing the landing bay under it so that land was too difficult, and so turning it to the top just made sense.
So my number 5, much like this one, you either love it or you hate it, is the Redeemer. Paul's favorite ship. Let everyone know in the comments. The Astropod. Yeah, I think for me this is again a little bit like the Caterpillar. It's just the modules. think as a combat ship, it is very versatile. It gives you the short range or the long range, and much like what I was saying about the 890 jump, those engines, you either love them or they hate them. I kind of like them, and it's just a really good scaly ship, especially right now. But I'm really interested in see where it goes in the
Yeah.
future down the line. And it's probably my smallest favorite combat ship, if I can say it like that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying about the engines. I do like the engine look. I've
Mm.
always liked the look of the engines. My beef with the engines is that they don't fit the verse.
Yeah.
If they are engines in the verse, you expect to see ships with that style of engine, and we just don't see any, even with anything similar to that engine styling.
Yeah, and
And so,
I did say that too. It'd be cool to actually see another ship with them, like a
yeah,
fighter or something, or even a configuration of some major ship that maybe has 4 of them and they VTOL or whatever. But again,
but even,
see.
even something that shows a similar mechanic of the way the engines are working, it just doesn't.
Doesn't it say in law that they are a fairly new ship though? That's
It's
why
supposed to
they.
be
Yeah.
experimental design, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that might explain it
But
then.
it's just so alien. I
Mm.
could have got around it if you said, "Oh, Tavaran designers helped build this ship."
Mm.
Then you could say, "Oh, that's a Tavaran type design." But no, nothing
Yeah.
in that. It's just they're just too alien in terms of too unique to the verse, and that to me is one of the things I hate about them. But I love the look. I love the styling. Um, I can remember seeing them in action in Impact.
Oh, we lost him. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. Algared's is actually the Orion. So I guess I'll talk about this until he gets back. But I own.
Yeah.
Oh, Algared, tell us about your love affair with the Orion, please, mate.
Yeah, goes back to when I first started. There were several, basically all the ships I've got are the ships that really spoke to me when I first started the game, and really probably are responsible for my Pokemon syndrome. They were the non-pew pew ships. This was mining. It just spoke. It felt in a sense very alien-esque in terms of the look.
Very Nostromo, yeah.
It had that whole mining idea. It was, I'm going out mining, I'm doing support, I'm not doing combat.
Do you think this is an older style of RSI now? Because like they talked about the whole diamond head now. How long has this been around in lore? Do you know off the top of your head or not?
Well, it, in law, not off the top of my head, in terms of game,
Yeah, it's
when
more
I
of the
joined in 2014, it hadn't been released yet, but it was on the tracker as as the mining platform, as the ship that was coming.
Yeah.
So it was.
I hope that it's an older lore one because then they can keep this styling. Because it's very unique. It's not very traditional RSI. In fact, I almost look at it and kind of try to grab parts off it. And I think only the engines are even kind of. I think they're a little similar to the Bengal, but that's about it. Everything else is really
Yeah, everything
bespoke.
else is really
Yeah.
weird.
A couple of turrets and cabs there that you like. If I use my mouse, you can see it. So just here. Wait, wrong one.
Yeah,
Wait, is my mouse? No, my mouse pointer is there. It is. Yeah. So
yeah.
just these two here. But yeah. Other than that,
As I look at the ship again, it doesn't give me the, I suppose, Nostromo vibes. It gives me a more Terminator style. It's just got that. Yeah, but it was non-pew pew. It was mining. It was service. It was. That's why it appealed.
all right. So my next one's going to be a bit surprising to some people. But I actually recently, if this is the ship I think it is, I recently brought one of these. I spent a lot of time. I mean, in Iring. I got it for $330, which is under half price.
Yeah.
And I think at that price, I can justify this ship. I've often said to Algared it's roughly the same size as a Caterpillar and a Starfarer. And if I could get one around that price, I would pick it up. So at that price, I am happy to say I own one of these. I don't think it's worth the $675 price tag, but $330 I can definitely get behind. I've often had many debates with both yourself and Badges about this one. I totally understand why so many people like it. For me, it was always just the price point. And I had people telling me I was crazy. It seems amazing, blah blah blah. And yeah, it does, but that's why it's got such a high price tag. Small crew complement, really cool bespoke guns. Looks hyper aggressive. The whole shark tooth thing. I just think it's going to be almost like a Redeemer 2.0, like the bigger brother, but the more defensive brother, where that's the offensive smaller one. So yeah, so, Algared, your thoughts on?
No. Look, everything you've said is the same. The only thing that I think even badgers who love the ship would say against this ship was it was just overpriced. It was just too expensive. Even he couldn't justify buying it, and he loved it.
Yeah, I kind of blame myself a little bit for that. For when we showed this off on leaks, we hyped this thing for like 9 months, so I kind of blame myself a bit.
I shouldn't say loved it. I should say loves it.
Mm.
But I'm the same. I really do like that ship. I like the small crew. I like the fact that it's got some good bite to it. But a price point just killed it, and I got mine for half price as well, which is I've got one of those.
So that's how I'd kind of recommend it from a value standpoint. If you can take the time to put some Warbond CCUs together and get that price down, feel free. If you've paid $675 and you want to support the game, more power to you. But I just couldn't get behind this ship at its price point, because when you put it in like a ship lineup, it clearly falls in with things like the Starfarer and Caterpillar, like I said. The Redeemer's the same, by the way, right? That Redeemer is now $330. How the hell can you put the Redeemer next to a Caterpillar and say this? That up, like it's a much smaller ship. It's I'm trying to think of a ship that's roughly the same size. It's it's bigger than a Warden, but you get what I mean. It's Warden-esque, a little bit bigger again, So
how do you put your Redeemer against Perseus when you've paid the same price for both of them?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of I paid $260 for the Redeemer or whatever when it came out, so that's more fine. But like, look how much this has dropped.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look how much I've been able to drop this in price. That's my whole point. So kind of crazy. All right, Algared, your number. I've lost the count of numbers at this point, but is the Reclaimer, and what number would that be? That would be number
3.
Number 3 for Algared. Right, Algared, the Reclaimer.
Yeah, Reclaimer again, non-pew ship. It really does. When you walk through the inside of it, it is Nostromo.
Yep.
It has that sense. The only thing it is really missing is Ripley's power loader.
Yep.
And an alien jumping out at you.
Yeah, hopefully get to see that.
It is just a gorgeous ship. I love it.
Yep.
And it's salvage.
Yep.
Again, non-pew.
Okay.
Note the thing.
All right, my number 3, Polaris. Hopefully we get to see this year. Man, I love this. Was the first kind of this was the biggest ship I owned for a long time.
I do recall seeing your fleet numerous times.
Yeah. And after the kind of the grey box stuff they've shown off over the last 12 months, it's just grown. I love all the cool little things they've done. I really love the modern RSI look, because in lore this is meant to be their like newest big ship. I love that you can do a bit of bounty hunting with it. Like, it's actually got a brig and stuff like that. I love, much like the Redeemer and the Perseus, it punches above its weight class. It punches up. I love ships that punch up. And yeah, just 28 torpedoes. Come on. Like, it's going to be scary, Algared. This is going to be a scary little ship. Well, you saw what it did to the Idris. It, like, made a pizza-sized hole. Not pizza, but you know what I mean, like a very round, big hole on the roof of that Idris, and yeah.
And when I look at the Polaris, it really is a combat version. In many ways, the combat version of a Carrick.
Yeah, it has got a bit of exploration.
Weird, but
it does have really good sensors. I have heard people talk about using it as a combat explorer, but I think you'd want to take a fleet with it if you're doing that.
But like, it's got the hangar, it's got the cargo bay, it's got the vehicle garage, it's got all of those.
Oh, he's had a stroke again. Yeah, I don't know. For me, Algared, cargo bay, the hangar, like the way they've really put out the engine room was the big one.
Scanners in the drones.
Right, you're back. Right, what you're saying?
Yeah, I was just saying it's very similar to the Carrick in terms it's got the cargo bay, the hangar, and all the rest of it, and it's got the repair. Although it doesn't have the repair facilities and the jump point scanners, it's got the offensive weapons which is the very thing you were saying.
The Carrick doesn't have exactly.
And so
surprisingly, they probably might work really well together. One doing the combat, one doing the repair, because you could probably. Yeah, I've never really thought of that. Maybe they go out together and rule the galaxy, father and son. No,
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. All right, next one for you, Algared, is the Crucible. I was saying, Algared, before the show, they really need some updated images for this. There just isn't any, which just shows like those ships that need the updated metrics really need an overhaul. But yeah, all right, Algared, your thoughts on the Crucible?
As with all the ships, apart from the 890 jump, all the ships I've had are the ships that spoke to me when I first started. They were the non-pew, the ships that said, this is more than just a combat game. And this was the repair ship. This was the one that would repair the big ships, repair the small ships. The Scarab itself is a hangar that can detach. When we did our deep dive, I remembered seeing things that we'd forgotten. It's got drones, it's got the arms, it's got the rotating bridge that could be used by a single crew. Downside of this is it's got lots of egress points, so you can get the repair ship easily, but that also means it's got lots of entry points if you're trying to capture it.
Yeah.
But
you can even see way back when with the ramp here, they were thinking of vehicles. Like there's nods to vehicles on this thing. There's heaps of cool little things too, like the Scarab can detach from the whole thing and operate independently for a while, like on batteries and stuff. You can actually see just here, I didn't mean to zoom in there, but there's actually another set of arms here. So once this Scarab drops out, these arms are deployed and they can like hug round like something like, they used to show images of it going around a Retaliator or a Connie, and now you can also flip it and they can start repairing Idrit. Well, maybe it might not flip anymore. They did talk about that too, but rotating the arms so they go to the outside and then it can start operating on bigger ships and stuff like that as well. So,
and all the stuff is this was originally a ship that would go up to an Idris and build a scaffold around it. It just had that whole sense of being, a ship medic.
I think the only other ship that can do what this thing does now is the Raft, where it can actually move its engines to recenter its center of mass, which allows it to carry the ships in the Scarab, which is really kind of cool. It's got a tractor beam. I'm pretty sure with a tractor beam, it's also going to be able to tow. I'd be really surprised if it had a tractor beam and couldn't tow as a repair ship. So I think I really do think SRV is a part of repair now. I think it is that smaller repair ship you and I or Paul talked about, or at least a combining of the Tug with the Vulcan. But that's a thing for another day.
When you do look at the original design of Crucible, they did talk about variants being a tow ship. Now, whether that got broken off and given to the SRV, or whether it's still going to be a thing for the Crucibles is yet to be seen. But I think you're right. I think the SRV is a smaller repair ship. It doesn't really repair, but it does that towing and repair point. So
much like the Reclaimer is an outlier for Aegis, I think this is, well, you can understand why it falls under the military of Anvil, but it still feels like one of those outlier ships where it's just military adjacent. Which is really interesting to see, because we don't, well, I guess the Carrick's like that a little bit as well, but the Carrick is a military explorer, so I think that is a bit more directly towards the military. But yeah, this and the Carrick are probably the two biggest ships we have from Anvil. We need a few more big ones in the lineup, but it's just something that is very different from the usual Anvil ship. You'd have to agree, Algared. Yeah, most of them are very triangular with the circle on top. This still has the kind of circle motif, but there's no real triangle like the others.
And that's one of the concerns I've got is the redesign. They are going to redesign. This will get redesigned. It does need to grow. So as it grows and they're working through where components fit, they may change the shape language. They may change the whole thing.
Yeah, I think
I still like it.
I think well, from above where you've got the circle with the triangle thing, I think if they just took the arms and made them triangles side on, it would work. So you've still got triangles with the circle. But again, I think they'll try to keep this as close to the original as possible. They do try to do that a lot. But again, they might just update the styling. It does still have some kind of Star Wars vibes, believe it or not, for me. Much like the Liberator looks like one of the, I can't remember the name of I think it's a Vindicator or something like that. Those big engines. This does have some Star Wars Anvil for me is clearly Star Wars, as RSI is clearly Star Trek for me. But yeah. Right. The next one for me is the Kraken. I don't think this is a surprise Algared at all. Again, asymmetric. I just absolutely spoke to me. Massive aircraft carrier in space, and then on top of that, all the support features it comes with. If I was ever going to buy a capital, like a big capital, this was the one I wanted. It just does all the support. It can do a bit of combat. It's just a nice, real good all-rounder. And I thought that was important. Like, I do have my smaller attack ships and, Polarises and things like that, but I didn't feel like I needed a Javelin or an Idris or something like that. And again, the privateer also kind of speaks to me as well. So I've got the option there to upgrade it with the kit. I do have a kit and buyback. So if I want to turn into the more economic thing, which is more more in the industrial vein, I can do that. I've kind of left my options open for that, and I am leaning a lot towards that privateer kit, as Algared knows. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a hard choice going for
Yeah.
that extra $300 or whatever it is to get that.
$350. Yeah.
To get that upgrade.
Hmm.
When that could be the price of not a caterpillar. Well, the price of your Perseus.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, it's more expensive than a Perseus or a Redeemer, which is kind of, or a Caterpillar. It's kind of crazy.
Well,
do you want a whole Caterpillar?
Do
you want a whole Caterpillar, or do you want to convert your Kraken so it's got 10 shops?
Yeah,
kind of weird. But
and
again, the way I kind of justify it, and Algared and I have talked about this, is if you look at like modules for like an Endeavor as an example, what's the most expensive one is 150, so that's like a fighter, so I can earn that in game pretty quickly. Where if I look at a $350 module, I think that's going to be a lot harder to earn. We'll have to wait and see.
And the fact that if you do the upgrade in game, that's also going to be a very long time sink as well. So
we don't
under the dock part.
Yeah, we don't know how long that's going to be. The ship could be tied up for a couple of weeks, getting changed over. You just don't know. So I assume it's not going to be the type of thing you can do in a day. Put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's going to take a fair bit of time. So I am leaning more towards the privateer because it kind of one's clearly more generalist, but nothing direct. It's kind of like a ship transfer ship with a bit of cargo, where the other one is purely tailored at the economic side, and that's why I'm leaning towards that one. And as Algared said, I could take it off and go back to the other one, and I don't have to earn it then. So yeah. Anyway, right. Algared's number one, the Endeavor.
Was there any surprise?
No.
Yeah, the Endeavor again. One of those first 5 ships that really spoke to me and said, "This is not a pew pew game. This was everything on steroids."
Yep.
If you talk the telescope, it's an explorer.
Yep.
Deep space explorer. If you take the collider, it's an overclocking repair shop. If you take the biopods, it's an experimental farm in space, or doing the cool runnings, which I think this is a full tip of the hat to the cool runnings. If you take a hospital, you've got the full-on medical thing. And at that time, that hospital ship was the only hospital ship in game. Yeah. Other ships, I think the Javelin just had a med bay, but they were the only ones really that were having that at the time. I don't even think the Carrick was originally said to have a med bay.
Yeah.
It was, so
it's clearly the king of modularity. It also is probably, and I don't know if this is just due that, well, it's obviously due to the modularity, but there's no ship that offers kind of more gameplay in a single ship. Not that I can think of. I'm sure there's one that's probably close, like the Caterpillar or the Galaxy. But the other part is, because of those slots, so to speak, you can have biopods, but then push it towards something else. You can have a hospital, but push it towards something else. So it's kind of like what they wanted to have in the Caterpillar with those 4 modules on the nose. But it's just so much bigger. It's just huge, and there's other little details you can get into just about the cab. Like, this thing can go into the corona of a sun, right? So that makes it this hard, tanky exploration ship that nothing else can do. So this thing is going to be able to go places from an explorer perspective that not even the Carrick can go. You know, like it might take it a bit longer to get there, but it can go some places where just nothing else can go. And that also is just not talked about enough when it comes to this ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing about this is that this was really the first mobile space station we had.
Yep.
You literally would take your ship, park it. You know, you could
Mm.
the cab would leave. The space station is aspect of the body and the tail of the ship would remain where it was and be still functioning because the engines would be powering and all. But
Well, it's like when we talked about the Kraken before. I will be really surprised if you don't have a Kraken that's very close to one of these where they land
yeah,
on the Kraken. This is docked with the Kraken and they come over and visit the hospital and see relatives, or they come over and go for a walk through the farms or the gardens on this thing, because it just allows this thing to be so much more accessible. I could totally see two of these either side of a Kraken and people are just landing on the Kraken like it's a little ferry or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
um,
And I think something we did forget to mention about both this and the Crucible is they're $350, which is
yeah,
ironically the price of that privateer upgrade. That's how crazy this is. You can get this entire ship today, like crazy Algared's used car salesman, for just the price of a privateer upgrade. Which still is why me and Algared recommend this ship so much. Like,
yeah.
just it can't be beat for value.
Yeah, well, I've got a full disclosure. I do own, I think, 3 or 4 of those of the Endeavour, just because it's got such versatility. And the idea is keep one as a hospital ship, one as an explorer, one as a but it is one of my favourite ships, at least on paper.
Yeah.
I do look forward to it. I hope it. I'm still not sure how we'll do it. Whether they'll concertina it, whether we'll change the way the pods are working.
Do you know something I want to, we've never really discussed, right? But it's something I've thought in the past. So I'm just going to share it here. A ship like this, when we talked about the privateer changing between the Kraken and the Kraken privateer, because that's got a lot of internal structures and stuff, I expect that to take a fairly long time. But this,
Yeah.
where it's built for the modularity, not saying it'll be quick, but I think it would be quicker than going between the two on a
Yeah,
Kraken.
I imagine changing the modules will be quicker than redesigning the interior of
Yeah.
a Kraken to a privateer and vice versa.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be a dockyard job, is my understanding, to change those modules.
Yep. And I think that's with all capital ships. They're all
Yeah.
going to require that dockyard. If you can't land in a hangar, it's just going to extend the time. But yeah.
But the other thing that wasn't said about the Kraken is also it is a mobile space station just like this.
Yep.
They're the type of ship you could actually take take above a settlement that doesn't have a station and use it as a go between, as a hub.
Yep. No, I don't disagree with that at all. I did kind of imply that before with what I was saying about with being parked with the Kraken, but where that's kind of more combat-y support and shops, this is the science and the other gameplay associated with this. And I do see them working hand in hand. And it is, you know, the cargo bay on this does make it like a mini Kraken in a turn of phrase. I don't know.
Yeah.
I maybe that's something they do. Maybe that's a module they add Algrid, and it just basically makes this thing a giant carrier. Like it just adds. Can you imagine this with 3 cargo bays and it just holds 6 ships? That would be mad.
I don't know if they'll have it so it can take that, but could you imagine? I do know it's got a cargo pod that you could add. So you could add cargo pods and maybe the hangar.
Yeah.
That would be a novel. That would be quite.
Even one of the ones we talked about way back was just like having the cargo bay with the extra fuel, and there was a cargo storage one. So essentially you could just have this at a point where ships kind of come back to a safe house, and you could actually take the cab away and just have the trailer essentially sitting somewhere in a nebula or hidden somewhere, and you just go to it as a safety place and restock and refuel, and off you go. Obviously you risk it getting found, but like it's a potential, you know, duct tape solution, so to speak. But yeah.
And there's always been that question. I don't think this will be a thing, but the question of if I'd attached my cab, could I attach another body to the, you know, could the two bodies join and have this mega station type idea? But
so yeah,
that dream upon a dream type
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah,
I've often said to Algared too, if they ever do rework this, I think the whole kind of flat laid out design, they could actually go a bit more 3D with it,
yeah,
because this thing is space locked. It does not land. There is no real need for it to be completely flat. They could go into the 3D. So for example, just looking at these biodomes, why can't they be sideways? Like the top faces one way, and then you get into things with the NPCs would then have to rotate with inside and stuff like that. So it does
yeah.
cause problems from an NPC perspective. But again, if they get the tech working, it might be okay. So, you know,
But you can also see, if they rotated, you could actually see just on the biodomes
yep,
them being rotated to get the best atmospherics. You
yep,
got one dome that's needing the sun, one needing the
mm,
shade, so you could actually tilt them. So you actually,
yeah,
I could see a value of it. But yeah,
mm,
I think ultimately the decisions will be made in terms of
yeah,
what makes sense or what works for the game.
yeah. And I think we'll both agree it's probably going to be one of the very last ships in the game to be worked on because of all these
Because
positives.
of all
Yeah.
the Swiss Army knife capabilities of it
Mm.
will require it. Yeah.
Right. My number one, which is also a double up, is the only double up we had is a reclaimer. And which is why I didn't talk about it much when Aaron was talking about it before. Um, but for me, this spoke to two parts of what I like about the game, and that was exploration, which a lot of people sometimes get confused when you talk about this ship, and salvage. So it was an industrial explorer. It was kind of like halfway between a Carrick and an Orion or something like that. And again, it looks amazing, like Agrid said, but it was in the description when you read about it, and they envisioned people going into abandoned ships and never quite knowing what they would find. And I still talk about it to this day, is that scene from Lost in Space, Algrid, where
Yep.
Matt LeBlanc has that metal, the guy from Friends, he has the metal thing kind of come up over him, or it comes down over him. I can't remember which way it goes now. And he's got those little kind of eyes, and he's got that special gun, and they're running from all those mechanical looking spider things going through the ship. And that sounded so cool to me. The ability to just go in and the shit's gonna hit the fan, just like aliens. You go into a
Yep.
ship,
And
and do you find an alien race? What do you find?
yeah, and I think that's why this has such an
Mm,
astronomer vibe as well, because that whole
yeah,
going into a ship you don't know and exploring.
yeah,
And so it is again, it ticks that those
mm,
boxes, doesn't it? That non pew
mm,
pew
yeah.
aspect.
And just,
It's got the exploration down pat, but it's also the pinnacle of
mm,
salvage.
yeah. Well, and
Um,
and the way it sits as well, there's anything else really like it. It's like this massive, huge, behemoth like bug thing that just kind of crouches over it. It's believe it or not, I actually see visual stylings, and I'm talking about the silhouette here between this and the Prowler. The Prowler's got those arm things. This has
yeah,
kind of got a similar silhouette, but completely different manufacturers and different roles, obviously. And just the massive arms, the big, like it's just huge. It's one of those ships you pull out and people just go, "What the?" Like it's
yeah,
just huge engines, just like massive footprint, huge claw. There is a lot of wasted space inside it, but that kind of talks about its price tag being lower than I think it should. Like it feels like a $600-700 ships, but it's still only. And I can't believe I'm saying only, but $400. It feels cheaper than it should be. You put the Perseus next to this, and it doesn't make sense. It's like, what? How could that be 675 and it's like this big, and this thing's like, I
yeah.
think it's like 3 times the size. It's
And the other
crazy.
thing I do like about this is that
Mhm.
the way the landing gear works.
Yes.
When it lands, you get that sense that this is a heavy ship. The way it
Yeah.
compresses and then comes back
Yeah.
up. Mm.
Yeah. So again,
Um,
a lot of gameplay to come though, as with most ships in this game, but like we only ever have that speculation or kind of dreaming or envisioning what it could be, like for the longest time, for like the last 10 years. We're only just starting to see the
yeah,
infancy of salvage coming in and that now. And this is one that speaks to me. And believe it or not, I actually at the time, Algrid, you were talking about when the Orion came out, I actually had the money saved up for the Orion, and then they dropped this.
yeah,
And I'm like, oh shit, I gotta buy this. So I brought this, and then I had to keep. Then I started saving again, save up for the Orion again, and then they never knew. I never knew when the Orion. I think it took another 6 months for the Orion to come out or something like that, and then I got that as
yeah.
well. So yeah.
I was with Reclaimer and Orion. I was torn.
Mm,
They both appeal to different aspects.
mm,
Um, the reason the Orion gets pipped because this, if it's salvage, feeds into, to me, directly fed into the Crucible in terms of the supplies, and so that's the only reason the Reclaimer goes above the Orion.
But it's like my list. Like a lot of the ships that you've listed are just off my list, you know, and it's more, again, this is a head versus heart episode type of thing where it's a heart episode, I should really say. So these are the ones that I just feel that are right. Like and again, it's kind of current. That's why the Percy's is kind of a bit higher, because I just got one recently. You know, Salvage is kind of in at the moment, but I've always liked the Reclaimer for the longest time. But I've always liked the Polaris too, and for the longest time, my Polaris was number 2, but then I got a Kraken, so the Kraken's now number 2, and things like that. So things will change and develop, and I'm sure it's done the same for all of you. And Agrid's kind of saying, "Oh, I'm old school," and it's kind of, has it really? You were kind of saying that earlier. It really hasn't changed a lot for you over all these years.
No, generally those first 4 ships for me. In fact, even the first 5, because the Carrick's in that last as well. They're the ships that went, this is not pew pew.
Yeah.
And even my desire for an Idris, I love Idris. That was one of ones I'm struggling with.
That was the one you cut, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was there because, again, you've heard me say on stream, it's my long deep space explorer with lots of red shirts, so that if we lose someone, you know, if my friends come in and they're taking over a red shirt, doesn't matter if they die, because there's another red shirt they can pick up.
Yeah.
It's that type of thing, you know. So, I know, don't want to be a red shirt.
Yeah. So we could have done 10 on this list each, and the episode would have been twice as long. But yeah, there's no right or wrong in this. It's just how we feel, and I think I'd put that into the comments too. Like, what ships do you guys like? If you've got any critiques on what we like, are we crazy for that? Let us know. What would you like to hear from people in the comments below, Algared?
Yeah. What ships are your favorite? What are the ships that you have in yours? What are your top 5 ships, and why? Is it because they appeal to certain gameplay? Is it because they have the best of the best?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also would ask this as well, now I think about it. Do you see, like, well, Algared's kind of didn't change a lot, but mine did. Do you see your own personal list changing as gameplay comes online? Because I do. Like, and I think it might even happen for you, Algared, too. I don't know. Do you think that would be a thing for you? Like, as gameplay comes on, you might change what you thought?
As I said at the beginning, if we were talking about ships that were flyable now, totally different ship, totally different thing. If we're talking about ships I like flying now, totally different.
Well, that's kind of what this episode is, because we did the best top 10 ships in game right now. This is the other side of that. So this is the ships that we've kind of got hopes for and dreams for. So this is that's why we're doing this, because it's the other side of it. And we've already kind of done that one. So yeah. All right.
And I think people would gather from the way we talked about each other's ship that they could have equally been
each other's.
Each of my ships could have been on your list, and each of yours could have been on mine. That,
I think, with the exception of the 890 jump, I have a problem with Origin. I just need. I want them to do better. Like, I want them to justify their price tag. It's a little bit like the Perseus for me, right? They're way too expensive and don't offer enough gameplay to go with them. I don't hate them. I just want them. I think they're too expensive. It's just that in a nutshell. So yeah. All right. With that, then, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. And thank you to everyone at the end of the video that went those extra miles on Patreon to support us and help us out with new gear and stuff like that. All right. With that, then, he's been Algared.
He's been Execute. Come right out of here. Take care.
See you, citizens.